kicked off. Welcome to the C-Suite Sherpa podcast. I'm your host, Brian Marshall, and today we have a great guest, Joelle Kaufman with GTM Flow. So excited to talk to Joelle today. So Joelle, tell us about your business.
Sure. I'm a catalyst for go-to-market leaders to shift from being tactical crisis heroes to strategic. And the result is very quickly their teams and their businesses are seeing 20, 30, 50, 100% improvements in key go-to-market metrics. I was a CMO and CRO for 25 years in Silicon Valley, and I bring that experience to be a catalyst for rising sales, marketing leaders, and CEOs.
But Joelle, tell us about the customers you work with. Give me a sense of the kinds of customers you work with, geographically, size-wise, maybe a little bit about what they're going through when they want to engage you for your services.
I primarily work with companies that are in tech or in healthcare. They have a strong growth orientation. Many of them are venture-backed. I usually work post-revenue, post-evidence of product market fit, when we're thinking about how do we scale? How do we optimize? How do we accelerate the growth of this business? Or in healthcare, how do we increase the efficiency and the way we deliver more care to more people? My level of people I deal with are usually VP and above, and I work with multiple people in an organization, both one-on-one and in groups.
So someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I might need some help. Give me a sense of what you do. How do you engage with clients? And what are some of the things that you do and the outcomes, the kind of outcomes that they would expect when working with you?
Sure. So my method is called the curveball method. If you're leading, if you're living, you are seeing curveballs, probably multiple ones a day. And you are well served if you have an approach to curveballs. So I work with these leaders to understand how they're approaching things right now, where that came from, and help them craft alternative approaches and practice them. The results, I had a head of marketing who we worked together for about a year, and every quarter his pipeline was growing by 20% or more. By the time we finished at a year, he had the largest pipeline, high quality, accepted by sales, that the company had in 6 years. That's typical, because when you have an approach and you view curveballs as opportunities, and you know how to harness your resources and strengths, set a mindset of opportunity and growth, what gets unleashed is the potential of your team and of your business. We also always look at how can they use generative AI to help them further accelerate that process of generating better results, more insights.
I love that idea of looking at curveballs as opportunities. Every successful owner, entrepreneur, leader that I know has that attitude, that they expect curveballs and they practice dealing with curveballs all the time. And, the folks that struggle and are really getting left behind are the ones that have a static plan that assumes the future is just going to continue to be the future. And if there's one thing that we've learned, especially in the last 5 years, is that one thing you can guarantee every day is that tomorrow's going to be much different than you think. And that's if it isn't, then you better be worried, because something's wrong, because the world is changing. I've always said I own a SaaS software company. Planning execution company is one of the businesses I own. And we found that businesses can't plan fast enough to keep up with the rate of change. Their planning processes are outdated. They're, quarterly, looking out over 3 to 5 years. Those days are over. We have to literally plan out a quarter like we used to plan out a year. And it's anticipating those curveballs. So I love that approach. I've not heard it used that way. So thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. So tell us about, speaking of curveballs, so what are some big challenges? You mentioned generative AI. AI is disrupting the whole marketplace. What are some of the big challenges that you see your clients facing? And then maybe using this curveball approach, how you're helping them get ready for the big challenges coming up.
Sure. So I'd say the biggest change in the last 2 years has been the shift from growth at any cost to efficient growth. I frequently have leaders say, I'm being asked to sign up for 25% bigger numbers with 20 to 25% less resources. Now, we can believe AI is going to fill the gap, and it might. It might fill a lot of the gap, but AI is only as smart as you guide it, right? Garbage in, garbage out. AI is no different. It is wonderful that it is now accessible to people. But number one, I encourage all of my clients to invest in using the generative AI tools, because the time to develop your strengths is not when you're in the crisis. The time to develop your strengths is when you are training. We should all be training all the time. We should all be in batting practice, if you will. So the kinds of pressures people are feeling, they're feeling uncertain about their own security. They're feeling their team feels uncertain. They're being asked to do more with less. And frankly, the buyers of technology, and you know this because you're in SaaS, the buyers are finding they have lots of solutions that do similar things. So they're consolidating. These are a lot of curveballs all at once. So often I work with my customers to help think expansively about the possibilities of discovering new ways to be more efficient, the possibilities of focusing in tighter on your target market and who you serve 10 times better than any other solution that's out there. Because frankly, if you don't, you're not going to get bought. I don't care how good you sell it or market it. The other thing I do with people is I help them get really clear that their instinctive reaction to things, that first reaction, is primal. And they always have time. The thing about curveballs, they're always moving slower than they appear. You always have time to take a breath, to really look at, inspect, explore that curveball, and to encourage the people on your team to do the same. Because when you inspect them, again, there are hidden possibilities. I don't want to say that everything's always good. Everything is not always good. And sometimes as leaders, we have to do hard things. I've had to help a client navigate someone in their company dying this week. So there are hard things. And even there, we have to take a breath and we have to say, how do I want to approach this curveball? I didn't want it, but newsflash, you never choose the pitch. You only choose the swing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that, in there lies an opportunity to differentiate, because when you start to change your perspective and you start to expect change and expect the unexpected, the harder it is out there for all of us to be able to differentiate, the better it is for those who know how to differentiate. It's a great opportunity. But yet most leaders look at it from a victim perspective. Like, I can't believe my plan's not going to work because things have changed again. And that's really interesting. I think that whole concept of really looking for the unexpected, looking for the curveballs. I used to play baseball as a kid, and they taught me, look for the fastball first, because you can't react to it if you're looking for a curveball, but expect a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about making that adjustment, the minute you spot it, to adjust. If they throw you a bunch of curveballs, you better learn how to hit curveballs, or you're going to be striking out a lot. And if you're striking out a lot, you're probably not going to be on the team.
Well, and if you're a really good hitter, you're going to see a lot more curveballs.
That's right.
Because fastballs are for everybody else.
Yeah.
And if you're a leader, fastballs are for your team.
Yeah.
Curveballs are for you. I do want to drill into, you mentioned that people often have a victim mentality, and that is true of some. But what I find in C-suite leaders is they tend to be high achievers, and they have am I failing? Because I saw a curveball, did I make a mistake?
Yeah.
Am I failing? Am I going to fail? So a good amount of our work is really unpacking that and starting to normalize curveballs happen. Now, if you're seeing the same curveball over and over again, there's a systemic problem. It might be you, it might be your product, it might be your team, but we then have to drill into, why is the same curveball? Like, my favorite one is customers keep canceling. Okay, if we have a large volume of customer cancellations outside the norm, we have to figure out what's going on, because we are not delivering value. And if you're not delivering value, you don't have a business.
Yeah, I agree. And I do agree with the idea of high achievers tend to turn a critical voice towards themselves. They tend to be they have very high standards, and they often are disappointed in their own performance, and they can get paralyzed with beating themselves up or turning inward. And it is just part of analyzing, adapting, and learn from it and let it go.
It's really about having a growth mindset for yourself and creating it for your team. Because if you're holding yourself to that standard and you're afraid of making a mistake or failing, your team is going to be afraid of making a mistake or failing, because that must be the worst thing that could happen.
That's
and
right.
what you end up with is less ambition, less innovation, which all translates to less success.
And I think less vulnerability, because I think if you as a leader don't create a safe space for people to speak their truth and to turn themselves in when they make a mistake and everyone learns from it, they're going to hide it. And, then all of a sudden it's fear-based, right? It's all about punitive as versus, learning from it and moving forward. So let's switch to take a little different approach. I have this thing called the lightning round. I just want to ask you some quick questions, have a little bit of fun before we go. So you ready?
I'm ready. Let's
All
go.
right. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
How about cats or dogs?
Dog.
If you can only grab one item right before the zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
Photo album.
Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
You can't choose the pitch. You only choose the swing.
Do you have a favorite movie or streaming series that you would recommend?
I'm enjoying Outlander right now. It's just historic fun.
Cool. How about a favorite book, something you've read recently that you'd recommend to others?
Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett.
Okay, cool. Bucket list item you've already accomplished and one that you haven't accomplished, but it's at the top of your list.
I've skied the peak of Big Sky down the double black marks with all three of my kids.
Alive to talk about it.
All of us are alive. We even
Wow.
stupidly did it in a whiteout. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Bucket list that I have not been to all 7 continents. I'm up to 5. So
Okay.
I have 2 to go, and I really want to get them all done.
Awesome. And last, probably the most important question, biggest obstacle that you ever had to personally overcome, and what's one lesson that you learned from it?
Yeah. So cancer, you can embed happiness tripwires into any journey, no matter how awful, and they will bolster and strengthen you. My cancer year became one of the happiest years of my life.
What a great perspective. And I'm so happy that you were able to beat cancer and serve as somebody who inspires others who are going through that. I think we all have people in our lives we've lost to cancer or have suffered from cancer and survived. So good for you. Yeah. If people want to reach out to you and talk to you further, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'd just say go to my website at www.gtm, go to market flow, one word, .com. There's all kinds of contact. If you reach out through the contact us, I will definitely follow up. And there's a bunch of resources that you can take advantage of if you don't want to talk to me.
Right. So we'll post that in the description on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, look at the description below. We'll have the website.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
So I mentioned the cancer thing. I have a book coming out next week called Crushing the Cancer Curveball, a playbook for newly diagnosed, their family and friends. So anyone who knows people going through cancer or who is themselves or is just facing a nasty curveball, the book will be on Amazon. I hope that people will take advantage of it and use it as an approach for some of the most disruptive and unsettling curveballs you're ever going to see.
Awesome. So make sure you let us know how to get that book so we can put that on there as well. Joelle, thank you for being on the podcast. Love what you're doing and love your story about being a survivor. And hopefully you touch some folks with your book that make a difference in their life as well. So thanks for being a guest and appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here.